Communication is a funny thing. When we communicate with other people, we are constructing an image of reality, a map of reality, or some aspect of reality, and then relating it to another person through the symbols of language. So the assumption that's built into communication is that what we're talking about is an agreed upon view, an agreed upon belief about how things are, how reality is. And we know that these types of communications we use to convey information and so forth are relative truths. And yet, the funny thing about language is it's based in thought. And many, many years ago, we took up residence in the internal world, the world of thought, language. We started internally communicating with ourselves, and in a sense, started experiencing a dualistic or split sense of self because of the communication ongoing in the mind, the narratives, beliefs, judgments, imaginings of conversations we're not actually having, imaginings of things that are not happening right now but that we've experienced in the past, or imagining how the future might go. This internal dialogue of thinking, recreating yourself, your belief systems, becomes quite solidified. It starts to feel heavy. It starts to feel rigid, uncomfortable. This is where we come to this place where we become interested in awakening, or become interested in spirituality, or Buddhism, or Hinduism, or some kind of direct path, or meditation, inquiry. And part of that is often listening to someone point to the possibility that is beyond or perhaps primary to that world, that internal world of thinking, of the conceptual self. But we access that through language, through listening to another person speak or reading what they've written. So by definition, the medium through which that communication arrives is flawed at best. It's completely misleading at worst. But even the best pointings, even the best and most eloquent writings about spirituality, awakening, realization, liberation, enlightenment, are flawed in that they are conveyed through language. So it's important to begin to understand the limitations of language itself. Understanding that language is making assumptions that aren't true, making assumptions that the world is a certain way, that things are a certain way. That assumption has to exist for at least enough time to convey that piece of information to another person to have an effect on them. The most common effect we want to have when we convey information is to give knowledge. But with this type of communication, it's literally the opposite. It's not to give someone any knowledge, and it's not even really to take the knowledge away. It's to point past the cognitive paradigm that's received and receiving the communication. So language is kind of a Trojan horse in this way. Because when I'm talking to and I point beyond the conceptual self, is not really the receiver of the language, the information. It's not the cognitive apparatus. It's something more primary than that. Something more already there. Automatically and always the case. It's not contingent upon information. It doesn't need any information. It doesn't really care about information or even knowledge. There's something that's so settled, so simple, so close, that nothing can really point to it through a paradigm, through a map, through a description. All it can really do is point to what it's not. So often with this kind of transmission, Language is used actually to undermine the internal cognitive structures, or at least to unwrap identity from around those structures. It's to entice attention into looking closer and closer at what identity actually is. Looking closer at what it feels like to be you, to be the aware one, or the awareness of what's happening right now, until things just get very quiet, very clear. And when things start getting quiet and clear, the job is done. Don't make this mistake. That's very frequent. Things will get calm and clear. Something will feel a little unsettled or maybe a little disoriented. And then we'll start to try to remember what someone told us about how it's supposed to be. That's a mistake. The pointing only goes so far. You have to proceed beyond the end of the finger to where it points, and then don't look back at the finger. Don't compare your experience to what is supposed to be happening or what you're supposed to be experiencing. Just walk off the end and stay. Stay in the unknown. Stay in the curiosity. It's pure curiosity because it doesn't need to be fulfilled. It doesn't need to be fulfilled with knowing, with a view, with a formulation of how reality is. It can be perfectly settled in its own curiousness. Just remain there. Let go of the memories of teachings, anything you've heard, even anything you've heard from yourself. You don't need it here, because those moments are gone. They're dead. This moment is alive. And it doesn't need a paradigm. It doesn't need any reminder of how it is, because it is just how it is. And reminders are only reminders of the past. Ghosts, echoes. So this is how you arrive here, and then just continue to arrive here again and again and again.